What's going on YouTube? It's Teach back again with another video, and today we're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals and our season preview series, and hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you do, be sure to hit that like button. It'll help me and my channel out a ton. And if you're new to the channel, want to see more football content and more of this series, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. Tell me what you think about the Bengals down below in the comment section. Obviously, a team that's coming off of a Super Bowl run. Do you think the Super Bowl hangover is real for this squad? What do you think about the Joe Burrow situation, his surgery? Realistically, I know you think this is a good team, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. X factors, games to watch. How many wins do you think this team gets this upcoming season? Let's talk about the Bengals down below in the comments section. Definitely go back and check out the previous videos in this series, but I'll continue to hit on what we're talking about in each of these, bullet points, each group. So that way, if you're new, you know what we're going for in each spot. So win range, 10 to 12 wins. My projected win total for my way too early AFC North regular season record predictions video, 11 wins. I think this is a really good football team, and we'll kind of hit on that again once we get to the X factors. But 11-5, 11-6, I guess. Still getting used to that. Totally within the realm of possibility, even as high as 12-5, maybe even 13-4. I think this is a really solid roster. Got to go position group by position group. Obviously, Burrow, franchise quarterback. Don't need to say much there. Joe Mixon, really solid. Even Chris Evans as a backup had some big moments last year. The offensive line vastly improved. We'll talk about that one last week link, but you're talking about signing a Ted Karras, bringing in an Alex Kappa, waiting for Lyle Collins to be cut as opposed to even trading for him, and then getting him for $10 million a pop. I think that's a really sound process. They fixed up the offensive line in one offseason and didn't need to go pay Teron Armstead or anything like that. They just did it with sound, strategic, right value type of price deals. So good work there from Duke Tobin and crew. And then talk about this wide receiver group. It's legit. It's maybe the best trio in football with Jamar Chase, D. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. But, that tight end position will be interesting this year. You lose CJ Uzomah. What does that look like? But you got those three wideouts plus the pass-catching building of Mixon and Evans. I think this team will be putting up plenty of points on the board. And then switching sides, this defense, man, sneaky well-rounded. Maybe doesn't have unbelievable superstar talent like Jesse Bates is the superstar in the name value. And then Trey Hendrickson has put together two really solid seasons. He's kind of put a lot of my doubts to sleep. So those two, but beyond that, we'll talk about Sam Hubbard later. DJ Reader was a big part of this team's, when he was out on the field. His ability to stop the run I almost put him as an X factor just because there's not a whole lot of those guys on this roster, true run stoppers. DJ Reader, if he's healthy and out there, he does wonders in that area. And even PJ Hill had some big moments, especially in the playoffs. Linebacking group, Logan Wilson, a huge year last year, broke onto the scene as a true plus-level starter. Jermaine Pratt is someone I still have some faith in, so I think they got something to work with there. And then a secondary, it may not be anything extra special outside of Jesse Bates, but Von Bell, more than solid. Eli Apple, who we'll talk about later, has had some good play. He's had some good play. But even beyond that, Chidobe Awuzie, big time step forward to last year. And then, Mike Hilton, one of the best nickel corners in football. And then you drafted Dax Hill, which his size and arm length, maybe they're trying to convert him to corner. Maybe he's just going to continue to play safety, but I think they got some versatility and some options there. And then, Cam Taylor-Britt, this guy who, kind of a strong safety corner, nickel corner hybrid. Can't wait to see where they're using him. I remember him in the pre-draft process right around 230 at 6'1", so a bit of a different body for a corner, but we'll have to wait and see. But just depth and solid players left and right. There's just in the league where it feels more and more evident where it's a weak league sport. Teams will find that weak link and exploit it beyond all belief. You look at that defense in specific for Cincinnati, and there's just no real weakness. As long as everyone's healthy and that true starting 11 is out there, not a whole lot to exploit. That's just a solid unit. But moving on, realistic goal, reach the playoffs. I think that's a pretty solid place to start. Realistic goal is just that. It's something that's more than obtainable, and I think the Bengals are certainly a playoff caliber team. Now, hopefully they can hold off that, Super Bowl hangover. They do play in a tough division, and the AFC is loaded, so maybe 10-7 isn't even good enough. So maybe if this team stumbles out of the gates or has a couple of weird losses along the way, maybe that holds them out. But as it stands right now, I have the number 2 team in the AFC North with 11 wins and as a wild card team, a game back of the Ravens, if you were wondering. And then reach goal, win the AFC North again, and then win the Super Bowl, which, granted, you don't really need to do the first part to do the second. And if they won the Super Bowl, I think that's all they'd really care about. But it'd be pretty kick-ass if they did both in the same season. That would be a sign of pure dominance. So that should obviously be the reach goal. And for those who don't understand what I'm going for there, reach goal is kind of like the college you apply to that, you didn't totally have the academic requirements for, the job that not fully qualified to get, but you send the application anyways just to see what could happen. So that's kind of my thinking there. And reach goal, maybe one of these two things doesn't happen, maybe one of them does, maybe they both happen. So, but that should be the goal in mind, right? Where like there's a handful, maybe two handful of teams in the league now that I really see as Super Bowl contenders, teams that I wouldn't be surprised if they're hoisting the Lombardi at the end of the year. And the Bengals are one of them. So their reach goal should absolutely be win the Super Bowl. So I think we're all kind of on the same page there. X factor. So this, I have to put a huge preface on this. This was maybe the hardest team I've had to do this for. Just because there's not that many holes and they're not having to rely on a whole lot of players. And when I say X factors, I'm not talking about superstars. Like, I know Joe Burrow is going to be a stud. I know Jamar Chase. As long as these guys are on the field, they're going to be superstars. Like, I know I'm a big T. Higgins guy. I like Tyler Boyd. And just switching sides of the ball. If Jesse Bates is out there and playing, we'll see how this franchise tag situation plays out. At the time of recording, nothing really been figured out between the two sides. But if he's out there, he's a stud. I mean, like Trey Hendrickson, if he continues to do what he did the last few years, he's good. I don't need to worry about him. X factors, these guys who I think if are 50-50 propositions. Maybe they'll be better than you expect. Maybe they'll be worse. And then based off of that, will this team be better or worse than their expectations going into the season? So a little bit of my thinking once we get into this X Factors section, which, again, was super, super hard for the Bengals just because they don't have that many holes. But that left guard spot was where I started because that's the last real area of potential weakness across the offensive line. And, again, weak unit sport. So if even just one of those 5 spots across the offensive line, that could be an Achilles heel, some kryptonite that teams can take advantage of, especially once we get into the postseason and the margin for error is that much more thin. So Jackson Carman going into year 2, rookie Cordell Volson coming out of North Dakota State. I haven't followed Bengals training camp a whole lot at the start of it. But that being said, I think Volson maybe has a shot. Maybe it's in the season to overtake that left guard spot. Drafted as a tackle, but in a lot of ways, the conversion to guard wouldn't surprise me. Or maybe Jackson Carman in year 2 is just, there were some maturity concerns last training camp and overall the play wasn't great. Maybe he's just taken a step forward. He's grown up a little bit and he's put in the necessary work and had some help from coaches. Whatever the case may be, if Carman is just kind of what they expected him to be as a second-round pick last year, I'm not worried about that offensive line. Or if Cordell Volson's ready to step in and give you some solid play, just be a league average kind of guard, I think this offensive line's great. I'm not really worried about the offense at all then, maybe other than tight end, but whatever to that point. And I'm feeling great about this roster. I think this team can go super far. So that left guard spot's really interesting. And then Sam Hubbard, the man in the picture, really good player. I mean, I don't want to say really good. That's definitely a boost, but Trey Hendrickson's really good, really solid, stable, consistent player. Literally look at the Pro Football Focus grades for Hubbard, and they're pretty much all right there in the mid-60s, right around 65, give or take. But that being said, where I pivoted here for the X Factors is, what if Sam Hubbard has a randomly career year? What if he takes that pass rushing grade and moves it up by 10 points? What if he's a mid-70s Pro Football Focus graded type of player? And it was run support, which is kind of the main thing I always kind of associated him with. It wasn't all that great. It was in the 60s as well. So what if he gets better, one, as a run stopper or as a pass rusher, maybe even both? Every once in a while you'll see these guys having random career years. We all remember Peyton Hillis earning a Madden 12 cover title because of one really solid year. Maybe Sam Hubbard has something similar in the tank this year and he just kind of makes a huge leap forward, and maybe it's a one-year wonder, but for the sake of this video and what we're talking about, 1 year is all we really need. So what if Sam Hubbard has this ridiculous career year, pair him up opposite of Trey Hendrickson, and then that pass rush comes formidable. We already talked about a really solid back end of that defense. Then this defense goes from really solid, stable, what you're going to get, consistent. Lou Amaretto's done a great job as the DC, to where it's like, okay, now they got 2 legit threats off the edge, a secondary with minimal holes. This is a dangerous defense. So it could elevate and change that perspective on that side of the ball. So not saying it's going to happen, but Sam Hubbard's an interesting piece. He's also just a great leader in that locker room. We went to Ohio State, so in and around the area, so everybody loves him there if you're a Bengals fan. And then Eli Apple. So kind of my thinking going back to last year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, like what could keep the Bucs from repeating? Injuries in the secondary. And we actually kind of saw that in the regular season. Now, and for Cincinnati, it's totally plausible. I'm not accounting for injuries in these videos, but what if Eli Apple just kind of takes a step back? Him or Chidobe Awuzie, whoever you want. They both exceeded expectations going into last year. They both played better than that. Eli Apple's kind of an interesting guy just because it feels like nobody in the league really likes him. But that point aside, that's not really what we're talking about. If one of those two guys or both of those corners take a step back, then you're talking about a different defense. So, does that mean Cam Taylor-Britt's going to see the field more? Does that mean Dax Hill's going to get some shots to play on the outside? Or is he sticking it at corner? Or a safety, excuse me. So, That's the variance that we're talking about, and especially coverage and cornerback play. It varies year to year. So Eli Apple and Chidobe Awuzie could both take a step back. Maybe Awuzie gets better and Apple gets worse. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe they both get better. Who knows? But that's the type of stuff that I think could keep the Bengals from getting back to a Super Bowl. Cornerback play taking a dip or a step back, and then injuries, of course, which you can't account for. But maybe Eli Apple does get better. Maybe he uses that hate that he gets across the league as a chip on his shoulder and he elevates. I'm not entirely banking on that, but really his inclusion here in the X Factors is, what if he has a really bad year, struggles? What does that other outside cornerback position become? Because Chidobe Awuzie has one spot. If Apple struggles, who's taking over that other position? That's what I can't wait to see. If you're a Bengals fan, you're hoping you don't see that. But moving on to games to watch that will get you out of here. Common thread here, pretty good teams. There's a couple of games right there in the early parts of the schedule. I don't include AFC, or in this case, AFC North games. I don't include divisional games because they all matter. You should have watched them all. Week 2 at the Cowboys, though, especially if Dallas is playing like they were at the beginning of last year. I know no Amari Cooper, but you still got CeeDee Lamb. You still got Jalen Tolbert, who they're excited about. You probably won't have Michael Gallup at this point in the year, but two sides with a ton of offensive firepower, and that's really kind of why I put it on here. I can't wait to see both, Joe Burrow and Dak Prescott go to head-to-head, and I can't wait to see the play CeeDee Lamb makes, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. I just can't. I hope this game ends like 45-42. I hope there's no defense to be found, and that's really my biased inclusion of this list, because there's a lot of games in the early schedule the Bengals play that are really interesting matchups, but I just hope there's fireworks left and right between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cowboys. Plus, it's a road game, so it does bear some significance. What does this team look like, away from their home confines? And also, it's just an early season test against another potential playoff team. So, good battle there. A lot of division games throughout the middle part of the season, and then a couple of bangers towards the end of this season. Cincinnati and Tampa Bay. Yeah, and as much as I say the Bills have the best roster, we'll talk about Buffalo here in a second. There's probably people out there arguing that the Bengals have as good a roster as the Bills do, maybe the best in the AFC, or maybe not far off of it. I would agree with that very last point. I don't think the Bengals are far off from where the Bills are at, but still maybe a step back. But that being said, one of the best rosters in the AFC versus the best NFC roster. Do I need to say more to sell you on this game? Yeah, you're going to watch that Week 15. Plus, another road game, staying on the East Coast, so it's not a whole lot of travel, but going to Tampa is no easy proposition anymore. It's not the Buccaneers of 6 years ago or whatever. So not an easy game to win, and another battle against a potential playoff team. We would assume the Bucs should be in the playoffs. We assume the Bengals are going to be there. So low key could also serve, depending on how high you are on those two teams, potential Super Bowl previews. So obviously a good game to watch there. And then Week 17, Monday Night Football, second to last week of the regular season. Depending on where these two teams are at, this might be the last time we see either team starters, right? Like, maybe the Bengals are locked into the 3 spot in the AFC after Week 17, so we don't see their starters Week 18. And maybe the Bills have secured the number 1 seed in the AFC. I'm just throwing out hypothetical situations. Could be the other way around. But this could be the last time we see Joe Burrow and Josh Allen in the regular season, potentially. But again, also just a battle between two of the best teams in the AFC, maybe the 2 best rosters in the AFC. I don't know if I'd go that far. I think the Bills are at the number 1 spot, and the Bengals not far off, but obviously a battle between 2 of the best teams inside the AFC, so must-watch television there, and also seeding implications. So kind of going back to that, that 3-1, whatever that situation plays out, maybe these two teams are battling for the number 1 seed. Maybe they're battling for position as the 2 or the 3, and especially in Buffalo's case, any sort of leverage you can give yourself to have a potential home playoff game, it's a must. No team wants to go to Buffalo in the middle of January. That is just not something people want to do. Going to Cincinnati is not necessarily easier, or not necessarily all that different, because it's a similar, area of the country, I guess. But Buffalo with those winds, the snow, yeah, that feels like way worse than going to Cincinnati. Never been to either city, so tell me what you think. But that being said, if you're the Bills, you're trying to do anything in your power to have as much of the playoffs go through Buffalo as possible. And if you're the 1 seed, then congratulations, you've locked that up. But even if it's the 2 seed, there's only 1 team that can trump you then. And if you're Cincinnati, it's a really interesting, what-if game to play out. If the Bills beat the Chiefs, what does Cincinnati's offense look like in the middle of January in Buffalo? Joe Burrow is not a guy with a huge arm, doesn't necessarily have, the most zip on every pass. Can he beat that wind? Can he play within the weather elements there in Buffalo? I would question that. And because of that, if the Bills beat the Chiefs, I would have probably picked the Bills to go to the Super Bowl, and that it's Bills-Rams, and anything's possible for either one of those two teams. But that being said, if you're Cincinnati in this Week 17 game, this could be the opportunity to get that leg up on the Bills and say, hey, No, we got the win here. We're not going to Buffalo. You're going to be coming to Cincinnati if we do meet in the playoffs, and that's a huge leg up for Joe Burrow and the Bengals as a whole. But that's going to do it for my Bengals season preview video. Tell me what you think about Cincinnati down below in the comments section. Do you think they get back to the Super Bowl? Do you think the hangover hits them too hard? How many wins do you think this team can get? Who are some X factors and some games you're looking forward to watching this team play? Love to have your thoughts, and I respond to just about every comment. So let's talk about the Bengals down in the comments section. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. It helped me out a ton. If you're new right here, want to help us get closer and closer to 1,000 subscribers, just hit that big red subscribe button down below. That's going to do it for me. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.